Welcome everybody to the January 21st, 2025 pre-board meeting. And off the new year. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Anybody? Call the meeting to order?
Isn't that your job?
I thought you. Yeah, I am.
Okay,
Hey, look at that mustache.
let's go.
So, I make a motion to call this meeting to order.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Why do you think you ever had to do that?
Yeah,
Call the meeting to
you just
order.
call the meeting to order.
Yeah. Yeah, just say, get going.
Okay, well, Samira, you help us out here.
Absolutely, I'm trying not to interrupt and.
Is that what we want here?
Just call your meeting to order, you'll have a gavel and nameplates next time.
Okay. All right, so, did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? All was sent out from our December meeting. So you sent that out to everybody, right, Paula?
I did, except for Kimberly, because I don't have your. email.
I'll give it to you.
You what?
I'll give it to you later.
This is my last meeting.
Oh, that's right, you're quitting.
Resigning.
Are you
You're
resigning?
resigning.
Yeah, I think I announced that at the end of the December meeting.
She did.
She did.
Sorry to interrupt, we need to approve the agenda. That you're gonna need to vote on, a motion in a second.
Oh, before we look at the minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, let's make a motion to review the agenda and approve it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look at the minutes. Does everybody have those? Summer meeting?
Yep, right here.
Mark? Oh, what are we gonna do without you?
I mean, I'll be doing it that's not.
Well, there is that.
You should stick around then.
All of
Because
us
why?
She's gonna do minutes.
There you go.
Yeah, I move we approve the. I second that.
All right, so it looks like first order of business here is John Valentine update. We don't have that, so we'll skip that for today. On this next step, we have to appoint a vice chair and secretary for the board. So, process for that. Anybody want to volunteer for vice chair of this tree board?
What does the vice chair do? This, run the meetings when you aren't around? I volunteer.
Okay, awesome.
Whoa, I won't say anything. We're being recorded.
So we vote on that?
Yes.
I make a motion that Mark, oh gosh, your last name, Newland, be vice chair.
I second that.
I second that.
Okay. I
Okay.
said, okay.
Yeah.
Good,
All in
Mark.
favor? Yeah. All right, good. All right, now we need a secretary.
See, I just didn't want to be secretary.
I'm not being secretary because I can't do it.
If I could specify, if that's okay, Chair Pottinger, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll be taking minutes, but I'll only do action minutes. So whoever your secretary is will have to take notes for, your guys' stuff. Like if you're like, okay, so-and-so's gonna work on this project, anything that's not done by motion or vote. So. Or now that you guys are recorded, you can always just go back and rewatch the meeting if you need to.
True. So you will take the action minutes, and then we'll get a copy of those.
With the packet, whenever I send out the agenda,
Right.
I'll send those out to you.
Right. What do you guys think? Additional notes?
Are we down, we're down one, correct?
Me too.
We need two.
Well, no. Christina.
Christina just couldn't make it tonight.
Right. Right, she's-
This is six.
So Greg has stepped down, right?
Yeah,
And
Kim took
Kimberly,
his place.
right, Kimberly or Kim? Kimberly took his place, right?
Yep.
And then, John's normally here. Christine's-
We're down one member because you're, yeah. So maybe that new person could be the second.
Yeah, there's a long-standing tradition of volunteering people who are not in attendance.
Christina.
Christine. So the new member not yet named. Well, we could ask Christina.
Sure. I think we should table it till next.
All right. Well, we ready to move on? Okay, let's look at this, what I put down on this for brainstorming goals. Ooh, I think the idea here is like thinking about our calendar in addition to the things that we normally do, which I think we're all pretty clear on. We normally do, we're gonna do this Arbor Day. I think we gotta talk about Arbor Day, what we wanna do for that. But we have Cherry Days, we have the Harvest Fest, right? We've got Sick Tree Day. In addition to those offerings, what are we wanting to accomplish in this year? Because I want to make the intention, because we've talked about a lot of different items over the last year. And it's really hard to track because, things happen and then we move on to the next thing. And so I'm really wanting to pinpoint, in addition to the things that we've done, which are very helpful, what are the priorities as you see it? And
I think that you addressed that during the last meeting, so if you look at the minutes,
yeah,
the second page, for me, it's the second page, where
Okay.
it says, if Peyote is going to aspire to plant trees, we need someone to water the trees.
yeah,
And so, can't go to Corey all the time,
yeah,
and so how do we make that happen?
yeah,
And Christina has really good ideas about that.
yeah,
We've talked about it and talked about it. We talked about City Works getting trained in tree pruning also. So those are two things that have to happen all the time, that the spring hits, it has to happen.
yeah. I know.
And
What
I can't always be texting Corey.
At the last meeting,
We were scolded for that.
I know.
and at the last meeting, I added this to the agenda. Kimberly's the one I think that brought it up. I think we used the term protocol. We need to establish our protocol with working with the town, which would include watering new trees or what can they get to and what can't they? I don't know how we're gonna do this yet. I'm just throwing that out there because they can't get this stuff. So if they can't, the tree's gonna die, which we've seen. So we rely on just the text. I've done it. Paula says, we call Corey. And he's lost in his huge plate of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So establishing those protocols, I think we gotta come up with how to do that.
Can I ask a question?
No.
And, it's always good to be careful that you're not, obviously the trees aren't getting water, so that's something we need to do. As far as the trees' health and tending to them, is there someone that's in their bailiwick of their job?
Not in any way, right, other than in an emergency situation. We've put in some money in the budget to target certain things and try to make some headway on some of these trees that have been inventoried, but as far as anybody on the town that's actually appointed to do that, I don't know of anybody. Do you?
I think there is actually that one of the folks, one of the fellows on the Public Works, his responsibility is the park. Not full-time, but correct me if I'm wrong.
You were correct, but he's no longer in,
Pardon me?
he's no longer in the employ of the town. He was ideally parks in the weather, in the right season.
But to answer Kimberly's question,
But-
specifically, no, there's no one in the town that looks at trees and knows that they're security pruning.
But the reason I asked the question, here's an example, just one small example. I was walking in the park and they have those younger trees that have a little bit of a guard for. And one of them was very young and very struggling, and it had a whole bunch of suckers on it. And of course that inhibits development, it's not good for the tree. And I was tempted to go get my pruners and prune them all out, but I didn't because, a lot of times you can create discord. Especially now that I'm on the board, I wouldn't want to do anything that might create discord. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want us to arrange to do something that steps in anybody else's toes. At the same time, when you put money, invest money into amendments, digging holes, buying trees, putting them in, putting cattle panel around them, and then they're not tended by something as simple as pruning the suckers, that's a lot of investment going into something and then not something basic. And I'm not pointing fingers anywhere, I'm just.
You described it well. I think I can speak for myself. I've lost trees from drought. I've lost trees from deer in my own property, So it's very easy to do that. And this board has been talking about planting trees for several years, right? Just trying to we have planted some trees, memorial trees, Arbor Day trees, but to be more systematic and to see progress, that's obviously at the top of our list. And what you just said is some of those trees have died. And so here's how it sits as I see it. We want to help. Christina's been very vocal about trying to water. The town hasn't really liked that idea. It's just coming from a citizen to do these things because it's not systematic. I get that. The town's, from my perspective, has got a million things on their plate, right? So they're not able to consistently tend to, because these trees, if they get dry, they die, right? They need steady attention. So we've stalled on our efforts to plant them because planting trees that's only step one, right? It's expensive. If you're not taking care of it, they're not going to make it. So it feels like a bit of a stuck spot for us here. And what you just said as well, we could reach out to Corey, and we were told at the last meeting not to do that, right? And I get that. I get both sides of that. So my thought is, it's almost like there's another group that needs to be focused on that. That somehow it's not, because the tree board, we're juggling a lot of different issues. And if, how it goes, if somebody is, let's say Christina is doing that and doing that well, and then she moves away, then what, right? Like that, there's no system in place.
No
It's almost,
protocols.
yeah, so it's almost like there needs to be a little committee of people that they take that on and they have a structure and we work with them. They get funding somehow or support, and that's what they're doing, because I just don't think we can just turn it over to the town and say, do it, right?
Well, it might be good to ask the town, this is what we're running into. We would like to solve this problem, but of course we want to be in resonance with you. What are some, parameters from which we have to work? Like, what are your concerns? Are you concerned about people doing it and getting hurt and that being a liability risk? What are your concerns, and how can we meet them, manage this without creating contention with the city?
I think that's a great idea to have a meeting.
Sure.
I don't know if it's with Corey and Stefan and the tree board. So that now, in the dead of winter, so that by the time spring comes, we have our action plans ready to go. Whether there is another committee, who knows?
That's the only way to do it is with the town. I want to circle back to your original question. So what happens if someone in the town, a citizen or someone in the town staff sees a tree that's questionable? They'll call us. We go out and take a look at it. We're very fortunate to have Tom, who has more
So
knowledge
as,
than any of us.
before I was on the board, what should I have done? I should have
I
asked,
would have empowered yourself.
what?
I would have just gone and improved the trees.
You, because you're on the board and you're an arborist, right?
Or you come to me and say, I'm not sure how to prune this. Can we meet? And I'll.
So a person who's not on the board, what the town needs to know is if you see a tree,
They should call our phone number or email us
okay,
and say, I have a concern about this tree and tell us where it is and then we'll check it out. I think you as a board member now, if you come across and say, gosh, I should like, to see," and if it's an ongoing time, like a month or two, and it's still not being addressed, then you can either just say, hey, I'm not sure how to prune this, or if you feel comfortable in pruning it, we can do that and.
but there's just suckers. I mean, the only reason I didn't cut them off is because I've been on boards and involved and I know it can happen. And, you know,
Well, right, I think that's right. I think the hope is anybody in town sends that notice to the town and they reach out to us, right? And then we can say, Tom or whoever, take a look at it. I mean,
My point in that more was, that planting trees, like you said, is a great idea, but I think the maintenance of them, right? It's not just watering, it's,
It's the whole maintenance through the life of the tree.
yeah. And especially like the first 3 years, right, to get it established. And so, this, I mean, again, if there is this possibility of some subgroup that focuses on that, they could work with the owner, because a lot of owners of homes, they're wanting guidance and, they're willing to spend money on trees. I just don't know of another way. I think we could get the town's attention to talk to them. Town will say, yeah, well, here's what we can do, but then the town's on to the next thing. It's just hard.
well, when I said write them and say that we would like to take some kind of responsibility for this, but of course we want to be in coherence with you, then they can give us feedback about, well, we don't want this because we have a concern about liability, or we don't want this because it's against these rules, and then we can figure out how we can operate within.
Sure. So the action would be just to call a meeting with Stefan, I think, and to. Sure.
Someone brought up about a volunteer group as well of citizens.
Yeah. I think as long as it has a structure where that lives on past the volunteer, then yeah, that's, because it is about consistency. You drop the ball for a month on this thing, right?
Volunteer groups easily dissolve.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a strong leader for the volunteer group, and I've heard, I don't know how long they stay in existence, but I've heard of organizations, different cities, having volunteers to help take care of the trees. They more do the pruning, maybe if you had tree wrap or something simple for them to do, you can teach them to do that. But when it comes down to watering trees, that requires a water truck and or a tank or whatever, and staff, because I understand you have to have this paid staff operating this equipment
Right.
for insurance purposes. So we can't, the other option is you explore maybe hiring a contractor, but then I have an issue with contractors. They may say they've been there, but how do you know they've been
Mhm. Right.
there?
They have no skin in the game.
Yeah,
There is a garden club that's been operating in Paonia for 50-some years, maybe more.
Here,
Here in Paonia, yeah, but it's mostly women older than me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that group's gonna keep
Mhm.
going. They show up to help us set up the nativity that we do in the Lions Club every year. They bring donuts and hot chocolate. And they've been around forever. But the women are, again, they're older than I am. So that's one of those volunteer things that I don't think they can do it, but maybe they know of somebody. Maybe they do have younger members. I've just never met them. It's kind of an aside, but
But it seems to me we can't solve the watering problem without being in like, in conjunction with the city, just.
Yes, have to.
Yeah, that's right.
And somehow we have to get them to see the need to watering trees and make it a priority. This is a living thing, you ignore it, it dies.
Yeah,
And why should we plant trees if you aren't gonna assist us in planting, in watering trees? And I understand you have an emergency, that's that day. The next day, he can go out and water. That doesn't mean you don't drop the ball and don't send your
Yeah.
guy out to water.
one of the first questions I asked, you may not remember this, but I wanted to ask the town, how valuable are these trees as an asset? And that goes along with that question I've been asking for 5 years.
So look at the
How
report
valuable-
Tammy just
Yeah,
put
the
out.
damage report.
well, it's not
No, but
Cammy's
no, how
perception,
does the
they talk
town-
about the
How
town
does the town
perception.
value those trees? Everyone loves the town park, everyone loves paying about trees. What does the town really want to invest in that? That's the water.
And
That's
that's
the
where we
protocol.
need to have the meeting.
Yeah.
I think with Corey and Stefan.
Yeah,
And say, this is our frustration, is we're trying to advise you and give you direction, but you ignore our direction. And if we, and I was thinking about this the other day, I think it's, you come up and say, if you aren't gonna water trees, we aren't gonna plant them. And it's that simple.
Or we
You have to
can,
be committed to the care and maintenance of the tree for the life of that tree. And whether it's 2 years or 50 years, you have to have that commitment
yeah,
with your staff to take care of the trees.
or just say, this is the reality, we're inviting you to help us find a solution because our solutions haven't been acceptable.
Yeah.
yeah.
So can we add that to a goal for 2025? The whole protocol thing?
I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, we're probably gonna have more success trying to get owners who want some partnership. In other words, tree board will assist you. Like, just put it out there, we'll help you with picking out variety. Now, you're paying for it. But, it's almost like, because that's who's gonna be most likely to take care of it, right?
Well, I guess are we talking about care of trees on city property? Or are we talking about trees being cared for in city right of way, which
Right.
we are not responsible for the care of?
So the
No.
Vincerina tree,
It's on.
Well,
city-
no, you're right, Tom. I mean, there is town park trees. Public parks, right? The
Yeah,
parks,
public land.
Apple Valley. And that is, town protocol, because that has to come, I mean, they have been doing that, right? I mean, the watering,
they came up because the Vincerina tree, I asked specifically.
well, that's right,
And Nikki
right.
didn't even know where it was.
right,
So there's another priority, is getting
Okay.
the new trees to actually,
right.
right,
But in my mind, if we're trying to get more trees in this town,
right, at a larger scale.
that's one, and then another one is trying to get owners that have these spaces and maybe they're just not moving on it. I mean, I don't know. It would be nice to be able to offer some financial support, but if we can't do that, we can offer professional.
I mean,
Most people just don't even know how to plant a tree properly.
and I think another one is outreach and education. We have to have an outreach and education piece.
We've got to really lean into that this year.
And I think that's a good goal, is to figure out our outreach and education.
I mean, that's what Stefan ended up saying in that meeting about the permitting, because we're still wanting to get this permit. He's like, well, what you can do is put more energy into education, trying to get the town to be aware of that, that it's a requirement and that we. So, I mean, we did Sick Tree Day last year, and most of the time the trees are planted too deep, right? I mean, it's water and not planting properly, like the basics.
They don't plant them properly. It's planting a tree is. It needs to take a baby. It needs.
Yeah, you're right. That's the first important step is planting the tree properly. And then.
Which is
taking care
not
of
obvious. I have
No,
to
it
say
isn't.
that, it's not like,
it. As
you sort of see those parts and, people plant tomatoes and they just stack the dirt.
Tomatoes are different.
Yeah,
I plant them.
tomatoes like that.
They like it. The only one tree I've heard of that you can plant deep is a bald cypress.
Oh, is that right?
And then you have the problem where you dig it up and then it sinks, so you gotta kind of anticipate.
Well, that's it, right? People dig it too deep to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just,
Sitting.
then that ground settles.
Or they don't dig the hole big enough. I've seen people dig a hole just the size of the root ball and then put it in
A
there.
lot of basic mistakes, right? All right, I think that's good. We're talking about town protocol for planting trees, outreach and education. And then, which includes maybe trying to figure out a strategy with owners to get some more trees started.
Can I make a comment on the protocol item?
Yeah.
So I once spent almost a year on a board doing a protocol book, and it was excruciating and incredibly time consuming. And I think working toward protocols, in my opinion, my thought is when you come up with an issue that's going to have to be, as you said, in the future, consistent, just do the protocol on that issue, and then you build the book, your protocol book over time as you address each issue. Because if you just like have a goal, a big overarching goal of having a protocol book, then you're like putting so much on your plate at once.
It's a dynamic document.
Well, it should be a living, breathing document.
Right, but I mean, if you don't have one to start with, then you don't have any protocols for anything.
Yeah,
So you're saying focus on the need at
What if-
hand and work on a protocol for that.
Yeah, and then over time you build a book without having it be like, otherwise you just get overwhelmed and.
Sure. Yeah, you got a book of protocols and that's all you have, right? But
Well,
they're
and-
not actually working.
And you can't really do anything else because you're just
Right.
trying to get all these protocols. But if you're working on an issue, then you're, all the things that need to be addressed on the protocol are in the top of your mind, and you can do it on that one issue.
Yeah.
So going back to the agenda item, number 3.
Yeah.
Here are what I have for goals for this
Okay.
year. Arbor Day, we always have to plant, so that's one. Stick tree day needs planting, that's number 2. And maybe they aren't in the order. Cherry days and Harvest Fest, those things just kind of happen, doesn't take a lot of planning.
Mhm.
Outreach and education can be another goal, a third goal. Protocols can be a fourth goal, and under protocols, we'd get that number 4A would be there. The permitting process could be part of that easy for me to say, protocol process. So those are the 4 that I have for goals. for this year.
sounds probably.
And, I'm just looking at the considerations that you had, Greg,
Yeah.
6. The recommended tree list, I have a couple comments about that. The budgeting money for right-of-way trees, well, we can't do that till we get protocols, or,
Yeah,
the whole one.
right.
The Google Docs, I think we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I think I have an idea what that was about. And then grants, I don't have any.
What was that last part?
Google Docs is.
Well, let's go down through this list. I think we're good with brainstorming. Do you feel like we got a list here?
Well, I have at least 4 I talked about.
Yeah.
So Arbor Day, Stick Tree Day, outreach, education, and protocols.
Do we also pursue, in another thought, is the tree,
Training.
the tree poster contest?
Yeah, no, that's something
That's
that's
coming up, I got a look, a new note from the lady that's in charge of CTC. And she said, it's time, you need to start thinking about
But I talked to the missus.
That should be one of our.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, that is, that's the first
We're
one I
gonna
said.
jump on that.
That's Arbor Day.
It's all Arbor Day.
It's all
Yeah.
Arbor Day.
So where is the watering inside these ones that we just mentioned?
Well, the water would be the protocols for town, right? Is the watering of the town
Yeah.
park
Trees
trees.
with public work.
Right. But I think on here, one victory this year would be, we've talked about sidewalk route training for Public Works, right? Like
Yeah.
doing that, like in the spring, like, because there's gonna be a lot of sidewalk work. Corey said he's interested. So you guys, we all meet
Oh,
and just talk about like strategies, right?
root pruning for sidewalk.
Yeah.
Root
Rehab.
pruning, right?
Yeah.
And then along those lines, I mean, if maybe that's the training for this year. But there's always been tree care, because again, I mean, we've walked around and looked at those trees in the town park last year and we were like, well, first of all, who planted this? We didn't even know about it, right?
Yeah.
And then it was too deep, right?
Another goal is continuing to update our tree inventory with removals and new plantings.
See, this is what
That
happens
has
to
to be
tree.
done. And
There's so many, right? There's so many things, and that's great, I know. Updating, you're talking about the
tree inventory.
tree inventory.
So Tom, would you think that would be a goal to, or whoever says, I'm sorry, training the town?
I think that would be a
Well, that's
goal.
something,
I think that's a general goal of the tree board. 'Cause
Yeah, the tree
that's
board.
something I'm
somebody
willing,
takes on.
I can take it, I'm willing to share.
Yeah, you can
training
train
with
us.
these.
I
It's
don't- I need
not
training.
hard to do.
Yeah, okay,
It's just, you gotta have a tablet or a phone and you go out and you do it.
yeah, okay.
And I can show you how you drop your point, and then you enter your data in, and boom, you're done in 5 minutes.
And then Mickey knows where the trees are,
And
that
then,
have to be
then
watered.
the trees are there. Then,
Yeah.
once we come up with after a meeting with Public Works, I'm more than happy to generate a list for the year of trees that need to be planted or watered.
So we can pull that,
And we can make a map, you can put a spreadsheet on
See,
it,
that-
you
that-
can put a date the trees were watered, so.
That would be a good thing to have
Clipboard.
before the meeting that we have with the
yeah, like
town.
to show, like, this is what we could deliver, right, for the town.
This is what needs to happen, because then you're giving a picture.
This will give them a visual, if they have a clipboard sitting somewhere, maybe invisible, oh, this is where we go. These are where we go water trees, and you have a map, and you have a spreadsheet that says you did it, and
Yeah.
when the trees move on.
Is that part of under outreach and education?
No,
That'd be,
That's something different.
that's just a sidelight for whenever we meet with.
the town.
Okay.
Be part of the protocol, wouldn't it,
Protocol,
for
yeah.
working it
Yeah.
out.
Sure.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of that little checklist in the bathroom, when it was clean last. I mean, it's literally like, we need. This is,
But that's it, you need a checklist, so they can look and say, the 3 trees in Town Park, or wherever
Yeah.
we're sending them, were watered on this day.
yeah,
And it's been a month since I've done it, we need to go out
and we
and
can
water.
educate on the size tree needs 50 gallons, right, or whatever that is, so that, what is that? How, because watering a tree could be 2 minutes or,
Like, we can show them, that's part of a physical training.
right?
Get out a 5-gallon bucket and see how long it takes for them to fill up a 5-gallon
Yeah,
bucket.
And
right,
it's not just in the tree ball, right,
Yeah,
where it's planted.
And
exactly.
maybe you get them to buy a root feeder, but it can be done, but that's part of educating the staff.
All
So
right.
they're kind of conscious of how long you're holding a hose there.
So it sounds like part of the reason they haven't fulfilled their part is they really haven't had a plan for, like, we're supposed to advise them, and we've just said, water them. We haven't really told them
Where?
where, when, how much.
Yeah, we could do that part, right?
We expected too much of them
Yeah,
for their budget and their number of people,
And maybe their knowledge.
that too, because people have come and gone that we've trained.
Yeah.
They've come and gone.
yeah.
Well, and make it clear when they do have a new staff, feel free to call us and we'll educate them.
So all that should be figured out and in some sort of template before we meet with them, so that we have something for them, rather than just saying, you need to water the trees.
Yeah,
So there's 8 things that I have
think
I
that's
mean, if we
plenty.
can
That's
do
a
all
pretty
that,
healthy, yeah,
we've had a
exactly.
great year.
Exactly, that's a healthy, because those, a couple of those are gonna take some time.
Yeah, for sure.
So here's what I have. Arbor Day, Sick Tree Day, these are things that take planning that are on our,
Yeah,
our goals. Outreach and education protocols, training town. Now, would that fall under protocols or would that be a kind of a separate goal?
well, there's something specific to sidewalks, I think. I want that, I mean, yeah, I mean, it sort of, I don't think it falls under I feel like that's its own thing. It's training for that.
And then update, the update tree, that's gonna be every year.
I think that's something we put on the tree board itself. I think
The update of the inventory. Sure.
maintaining the tree inventory. I mean, at least that basic data that to take off the trees that were, note that they died and why, and then ones that get planted. Then we can, and then we also, part of it is, okay, when's the next time we're gonna have somebody come in and re-inventory the trees and measure all of them and bring them up to date.
And
One
that's,
thing that never made it on the list is Tree City USA. And that happens in,
December.
end of, yeah, I was gonna say end of November, December is when I get an email,
So you did that for,
the last,
but it has to be done every year?
Yes,
every year.
I can do that, but with the caveat that I'm probably not gonna be here after 2 years from now, so somebody else needs to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to. have
It's easy to
learn
do.
From
Yeah.
you, how to
It's,
do it.
it's all online, it's easy to do,
And Sam and Ruben are right there
There to
and give me
help,
all
too.
the information. So
it's,
you,
it's,
so all
it's just
the
a
trees-
process.
Right. And all the places that you visited with, Corey or, Simon was called in. So whenever town put out any money, receipts, so it's all broken down. It's, it's very easy. You just plug in numbers. Sometimes the computer doesn't work and you have to wait until
Yeah.
after Christmas, but
Yeah.
it happens.
Okay.
is that what
We're
you're
Tree
always,
City USA now.
you're always asking for how many hours, right?
What's
How
that?
many hours?
You're always asking us.
That's
how
right.
many
Yeah, and
So
that,
I
that's
tell you,
volunteers,
that's
that's a part,
volunteer
that's a
hours.
section of
That's
that,
why.
that piece.
I usually ignore it, but
20 years.
sometimes I
22 years.
What?
I usually ignore it, I said, but sometimes.
You usually ignored me.
All right, we got
And
about
now you're the BD, I can't wait.
15 good minutes to go through A through G, which I think, let's see what we can do here. I mean, we've already touched on some of these, so let's just look at it. Tree permitting for right of way, which, let's see, where does that stand? I know there's the outreach and education, which we just touched on.
And there's protocols too. I thought that might fall under protocol. Maybe it's a separate goal to work on. I hate to.
I think we're trying to get the tree permitting thing in place so we can monitor our trees better, particularly the right of way trees. So I think it should be at least a higher priority.
What is the tree permitting?
Yeah.
Where you want to go.
Well, yeah, so, the trees between the road and the sidewalk, right? Those trees, the town, there's this dual responsibility. The town has ownership, the property owner is supposed to be responsible for those trees. So, we're wanting those trees, because they have been through an inventory process. So we're wanting owners who are wanting to do work on that to communicate with the town. So, because a healthy tree can just be taken down in no time. So we want a permit, and we didn't want it to cost anything, but it was more like giving the tree board a chance to reference the inventory and then communicate with the owner.
So is the owner getting a permit to plant? Is that what the?
No, we're talking about tree work.
Tree planting would be in that
Tree planting would be
in that piece. too.
definitely, yeah. So tree planting,
Tree planting, pruning and removal.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And or removal. And we would like to look at the tree. If somebody says, oh, I want to remove this tree, we go out there and say, nah, I don't think so. How about you prune it?
Yeah,
Or you go and you look at it, and I Or I'll look, somebody will look at it and you say, yeah, that's a scary tree. I support that you need to have it removed.
So it's,
And then they hire an arborist, a qualified arborist to do the work, and then they proceed.
so it's dual purpose. It's one is to make sure that trees are cared for properly and the other is to make sure that we know what's going on with them.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I just didn't know what that was.
No, that's good. And so when we met with Stefan and Tom was there and John was there, the way that it was left was Stefan was open to the idea of a business license that tree cutters needed to get to do business in town.
But I think isn't he working on it for all contract?
Oh, yeah,
All vendors, electricians.
Well, right, but specific to this would be tree workers.
That's the same thing for everybody.
Yeah, to have a
It's gonna be
business.
worded different.
And I don't know if that's an idea or if that's an idea in process, right? Because that's a big difference. But the idea then would be that tree cutters would know that's a requirement. So then they get, fill out this form, it comes to the tree board. With it comes the need for an arborist. And this is where the town was talking about adding a fee to cover the arborist input, especially for like removal, right?
Yeah.
Like pruning and I guess removal, both, which I didn't like that because I don't want the town, that becomes another barrier, right, of people having to spend money.
I think it was a fairly nominal fee.
Yeah, right, but it's still, then we were like, well, who's gonna be the arborist? How's that gonna look? So it became a little, in my mind, complicated. And then in the midst of that meeting, Stefan was like, what about outreach? Because really what would be better is that people know, they're informed in the town that they are required to communicate in that zone. And I was like, yeah, that's probably gonna be, we're probably gonna have more luck in that, in terms of getting something in place sooner. And you know what I mean? Like, this permitting thing could, because we've been talking about this for how long, Paula?
Years,
Years, okay? Years. Like 4 or 5 years.
But is it easier to talk to the 6 or 7 arborists, well, they aren't arborists, tree trimmers in town, or to 1,500 people? The tree trimmers should know it also.
They always, that you have to have that component.
Yeah.
The arborist has to be in the loop as far as what is required to work
Right.
in the town, whether they have to have a licensing or not.
Yep.
We expect that if somebody calls you, you need to reach back out to the town. And part of to making that work is we have to have due diligence. If we get contacted, we have to respond in a timely manner.
And for the record, this last year
it
has
was
been
great.
the best we've seen,
Yes, it
right?
is.
Like we've had communications about that locust and this other tree, and there's been numerous times that we've been contacted. So that's great. That's really what we're wanting, is just being able to say it, because we've had a couple of trees they just go down, right? And that they were healthy trees. And
But then
so-
at the same time, the town folks don't know that they have to contact someone, and they don't know that those right-of-way trees.
And some cutters can be coming from places
That's
that are
right.
not
They have
local,
No idea.
right? Because you don't really need a whole lot of,
But I think once we get this in place, we can send out a letter to all of the local arborists. There's people out of Ridgeway that come to here, in
Montrose
Montrose,
Junction.
in Junction, so you hit them all, you just send them a letter to, and whether they read it or not, I can't help you, but at least you.
so Tom, you're saying you send them a letter to tell them what?
What our protocols are. That if you should be contacted by a homeowner in the town of Paonia to do work, there is a permit you need to obtain to move.
That was our original idea, outside of the licensing idea, which was just that there was a form, right? That could be electronic, that's just emailed, and then we get to see that, and then there's like a 5 business day or whatever our window is, right, of communicating. So we have a chance to reference the inventory and maybe, take a look at it and then communicate that. That's what I want to see. I'm not sure if that's still on the table with the town.
Well, I think it is. We
Yeah.
need to just keep pushing it. And then I also think,
We wanted that in the ordinance too, which
yeah,
that's another thing.
We had that going.
Well,
I don't know if it got taken out.
well, exactly. So that's another topic, but yeah.
but yeah, I think we keep pushing on that.
I'm trying to understand where the problem is. So if all of the tree professionals that operate within the town have to have something, permit, whatever, to function in the town, to do any
They
work.
don't at the
They don't
moment,
at this
But if
point
they
in time.
did, if you establish that part of it,
right?
then if there was in that establishment a rule that they must, anytime they get a call from a customer to cut it down.
Yeah.
That they must contact the city. So if that were in place, where would be the problem?
Right, that's why I said you contact the arborist, not 1,500 people. You make the arborist.
So maybe it's time for us to have a little yearly newsletter or something that goes out.
Like in the water bills, right? We always talk about,
Yeah.
something goes in the water bill.
If when they get the
Certainly put
permit,
someone-
they get something that tells them what the rules are and says you, in order to practice in this town, you have to follow these rules. And if you don't, you don't get to practice in this town anymore.
Right. And, right.
So is that?
Was
something-
that the idea that you all have
Yeah.
been working on for years or? I'm just trying to
You make it
understand.
sound so simple, and you guys have been working on it for years.
No, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I'm truly just trying to understand.
I know.
It is dumbfounding that we've been working on it for years, but it's true.
City managers have changed. There's been a lot.
Yeah, we-
Has there been any pushback with the town around? In order for an arborist to work in this town, they must have this.
Well, we don't have that, and that's what Stefan brought up in the meeting in the fall of creating that, right? Because he doesn't have that, we don't have the town.
But
doesn't
do
have-
they have any
There's
objections?
been no pushback.
There's been no pushback.
No.
So if somebody created one and took it to the town, and somebody understood what the permit should look like.
There is pushback. What is it?
I could add a little context to this, because this is very much like business licensing is what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And there was a push for business licensing, and it caused all kinds of hullabaloo. Now it's something that's coming back around. So there was a ton of pushback when it
Yeah.
came to any kind of business licensing, but it is something that is coming back now. People don't like to be told what to do in Paonia. I know that might be shocking.
Well,
It might
that's
be
Western, but the also is we need to have these companies licensed and insured.
Absolutely.
Insured is the most important.
Oh, no, and I get that, and most people who are in favor.
But there was
understand.
pushback from the community, but was there pushback from the town? Was there any objection?
No,
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's no objection on the part of the current city manager or
No.
the administration of the
No,
staff?
it's finding the time to implement it,
Well,
just because we're implementing so much, but we've accomplished a lot. We
Yeah.
really have. It's not like it's forever, oh, we're still working on the same things. I mean, things are getting easier, new software is being bought. There's stuff that would make this process easier now if you can get community buy-in. Because anything you put into an ordinance, just like with our STRs is going through right now, I have a referendum petition and we're going to the ballot. Because people have a right to fight back against ordinances. So.
Is that like certain period of time?
Yeah, it's within 30 days of the ordinance being published.
But the tree, like,
Okay, we got
I-
to hustle here.
the tree ordinance license would only affect those practicing so much, right? Like,
Yeah, it's just like any other contractor. You have to have a permit to work on a house or to do whatever.
It's
That's all it
pretty
is.
basic, especially when you bring in
It's
insurance.
very basic.
insurance is key.
I mean, that one by itself should be there's no conversation,
Yeah.
because like you said, if people don't have insurance and they do, and the tree falls on the house, they can, it's the owner gets sued or something, right? Like it can be the owner's.
yeah, they're not permitted.
If you have a guy in his pickup and a chainsaw comes and does work, he either hurts himself and he's uninsured, he can go after you as a homeowner. For workman's comp.
Right.
So that's why he's insured. Or the other worst case scenario, which I've seen, is they come in and start work, they start cutting down the tree, it goes the wrong way, it hits the house,
They take off.
they jump in their truck and they're gone.
Yeah,
It
okay.
happens, so that's why you
So
require
let's bring that,
people.
let's try to figure out that, I'm gonna carry that forward to another next agenda, it's tree permitting, because I do feel like my concern with implementation of business licensing is it's a year later and we're still just talking about it, because it just takes time. And is that the most direct path, or is there something else that we can do? Because we've already made some progress. I think educating the tree cutters in some form is a good idea, right? Doesn't seem that hard. Even before we have a license, a business license requirement, it's like we're still wanting what we had this year, which is communication. Whether they fill out a form or not, if they say, hey, town, there's a tree that we're looking at here, and then we get the call, that's great. That's really mission accomplished. Short of a permit, right? Like it was that's the communication piece.
Mhm. That's
So
what we wanted.
we're wanting that.
But are they gonna do it unless they have, some sort of a stick to do it? That's.
Yeah, okay. Well, we started a few minutes late, so can we just go 5 minutes?
Yes.
So we're gonna shelve that for a moment, talk about that next meeting. The tree list,
I just want to quick say about that. What I want people to look at is how what's it called, the headings.
You're talking about the height of the tree and the wires?
Yeah, just the different headings that could be, here's a tree, what do we call it? Tree, the spread, the height. Do we want, how to do all
how to
that?
categorize,
How to categorize.
categorizing,
Because when you look at spreadsheets that every town has,
Right.
the recommended tree list, everybody's different. There's no
Yeah.
consistency.
Okay.
I'm
That's
sure
great.
you've seen it.
so
There's no
I have my
consistency.
opinion, you have
Yeah.
yours.
And I just, again, I made this up 3 years ago.
And where is it
Never
now?
nailed it.
Where is the tree list? Have
Well,
we-
it's supposed to be incorporated into the town ordinances.
Oh,
Okay, but do you have these on your computer?
Yeah,
Can you email them to us?
I think John has them on the website too.
They're already up, but you're trying to look at how to categorize,
Yeah,
how to organize it. Okay.
Because I've gone back and forth the last 3 years.
So that's an action item
Okay, action
that
item.
we can all look at.
That's all
And
this is.
You've got a lot of thought, I'm sure, about that. And so let's just pull that together and see if we can agree.
I'll send the list out.
Please do. Okay, Mark.
I'll send it to you too, just for fun.
hey,
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Next one is, I think we can talk about this next month. We did put some money in for budget. And it's just trying to think about, actually, I think what we didn't do last year is petition for that money for specific things. That was the next step. We said, hey, put money in for this, and then,
We need to figure out how to spend our money next month.
exactly.
oh my.
That's a good
I
one.
have no problem.
So I want you all, to think about that, just think about that. And I had put on this, this chart here, which was,
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
I had emailed this out, and this little chart was from our tree inventory that Cami Long did. And these were the trees that were rated in fair or good or poor condition and the risk. It was all based on her assessed risk. And I thought, what better place to start?
It's a perfect place to start.
But then looking at those trees, I don't even know if they're all still there. A couple poor ones may already be gone. But we need to have a system. And then if we can say, this is our priority, these 3, then we can come back to the town and say, we want some of that money. And then,
This is the trees that we want pruned this year. And then we can go through the bid process and start.
right?
That makes perfect sense.
But is that part of the protocol process, all that stuff?
Yeah.
Well, that's our protocol, but yeah, we don't
But I mean,
even,
that could be incorporated
Right.
into this whole protocol.
Every year,
process,
right?
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
year, totally. Okay, that's great. Google Docs for tree board info. Well, that got complicated last month, didn't it? We were just trying to get turnkey
Yeah.
so that we can turn over the Tree City USA details or the website or everything else. So I don't know what the next step is on that, honestly.
I actually,
Okay.
So
Yeah,
If you got a chance to chit chat for just a couple of minutes after the meeting.
Yeah, okay, all right, good. We'll skip grants for 2025, but think about that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Grants are done now for 25, but we got 26 coming in 9 months, so we need.
So this is
to apply for-
CTC or other sources?
All
All of them.
CTC is,
Okay.
and it just finished up.
Okay. What's the next step on that?
To do a grant, we need to think first, what do we want to do?
Yeah,
So that's another thing. It doesn't have to be done quickly, but we need to bid on our idea of what do we want to do? Do we want to reach out and update our tree inventory? Do we want to plant trees? How do we want to approach? The thing is with CTC, it's usually you can apply every year, but you won't always get it every year. They like to spread the money around.
okay,
But it's a wide range, any sort of tree care we can apply for. It's a matching grant from Colorado Tree.
Okay. Great, let's just think about that and then. That's good. Thank
so
you.
we're good next year on the emerald ash borer treatment, right? It's every 2.
Mhm.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll need to treat in
26, we got a budget for that.
Okay.
Protocols, we talked about that, so that's good. And then the last was this Arbor Day contest, which, I felt like
It gets away from us.
it does, it's so
So-
easy.
I would put February 1st on the calendar to start.
I know, and
Somebody has to talk to
Yeah.
KE.
I
Not
looked
that I'm
at-
saying what to do.
I can do it, because I have 2 kids over at the K and,
since you're in the building.
I'm in the
What
building.
is that?
So this is a really fun thing. 5th graders are invited to do their best artwork for Arbor Day. And then this year's theme is the superpowers of trees. And
Cool.
Um,
You already know the theme?
That sounded like
What?
last year.
yeah, but because my daughter was in 5th grade last year and I just didn't quite get that to them soon enough.
Yeah, we need to
And
start.
so I'm like, I just put it on my calendar, right? So I've looked at it. I've told the teacher, the 5th grade teacher, and Bushta is the 5th grade over at PK. So I'm gonna,
He's not the art teacher,
no, he's the 5th grade.
he's a math teacher, but the art teacher is really a good guy.
Yeah, I'd go to the art teacher.
Kuda, very good. Yeah, he's a good.
So you've talked to him in the past, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll be over there. My daughter has CUDA right now, so.
Nice.
All right, so that's my action step there, but we'll just have to figure out when to collect them and mail them. We have to mail them, and then they pick one, and then they put all the other ones on their website. It's really nice. But then the winner gets like to go,
Huge.
They get to go to
Town, city
To
hall,
Denver.
yeah,
the state capitol,
right, exactly. Go out to lunch.
With their parents?
their parents.
And voting.
the mayor, yeah,
Paonia. First year we did it.
yeah.
A young man from
Bodie did it, yeah.
Paonia won.
Yeah, so they get, the perk is that you get to go to to Denver, to the state capitol, get to be, I think probably you go around with your state representative, I can't remember.
Yeah,
But they go and acknowledge you in front of
The assembly.
the assembly.
And,
It's a cool
and that
thing.
makes people think about trees, because
Yeah.
the kids are working on these and they're standing.
Exactly. And then the town hangs all the posters.
yeah, that's right. We hang
I
about
can help,
here
I
in the
can help out
gallery.
with that.
It's really nice. Yeah,
It's
So Greg, I know how busy it gets, so I can help out with
and
that.
collecting and, great. I don't know what the deadline is, but we can look at that.
Yeah, Kuda, as soon as Kuda, he kind of remembers every year.
Yeah.
Once you talk to him, he'll get him going on the right.
Good.
At least that's the
Yeah, it's
past.
better now than, yeah.
All right.
All right.
So what do we need to do?
Should we move, we adjourn? No, I don't know if we need.
Yeah, we do.
We don't have any public, so,
Oh, yeah.
But we're on Zoom here, so.
but is there anyone,
Is there
can
any
we
public
get comment from them?
Yeah, I assume they could comment from.
So we
minute
still need to
comment.
ask for public comment.
It says P.
Is there anybody in attendance?
I'm sure nobody did.
Well, we should ask, just to get in the habit, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, usually that's on the.
Sam, it
agenda.
says 2 participants. That's you and,
Yeah, there's at least one participant in the thing.
great, we're open for input.
How can you tell?
I see that participant down in the bottom row there. You see that says 2.
Generally, if you can just ask them to raise their hand and
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no public comments, I can adjourn.
All in favor of adjourning?
Do we get a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Did you mention? I said it quietly, it's kind of a joke. We all vote.
Stop.
No, we were serious here. We have to be serious.
All right, gang, thanks for being here.
So I will send out just kind of the goals we talked about.